Welcome to the Equal and Inclusive Housing Knowledge for Stakeholders webinar created by the DC Office of Human Rights. My name is Elliot Imse. I am the Policy and Public Affairs Officer at the DC Office of Human Rights.
And I am Akita Smith-Evans, Lead Fair Housing Investigator with the DC Office of Human Rights.
Akita and I will be walking you through some general information about fair housing, including local and federal laws, that will hopefully help you in your work on behalf of marginalized communities here in DC and nationwide. Housing discrimination was an important component in equality movements throughout the 20th century and earlier. 45 years ago today, President Lyndon Johnson signed into law the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, a landmark bill that is the foundation for preventing housing discrimination today. The act was signed into law only 1 week after the tragic assassination of Martin Luther King Jr., whose death sparked Congress to push forward the bill. Dr. King had made the Fair Housing Act one of his biggest priorities in the years before his death, and the DC Office of Human Rights is proud to continue that tradition today. With the passage of the Fair Housing Act of 1968 and its amendments, and local commitments to affirmatively furthering fair housing across the country, we've made a lot of progress. But despite these strides, housing discrimination continues and remains a critical issue for marginalized populations. The right to choose where we live affects our employment and educational opportunities, proximity to friends and family, access to transportation, commercial and government services, and even our personal safety. We are excited to have you join us today because it's important that we incorporated housing discrimination efforts into our work of social justice and civil rights. We hope this webinar keeps you engaged. We've added some interactive elements to hopefully do that. And we hope it will assist you in your work. We encourage you to learn more about fair housing on the DC Office of Human Rights website, ohr.dc.gov, and on our Facebook page at facebook.com/DCOHR. To start off, we're going to take a quick poll to gauge your level of knowledge about fair housing issues. Please mark one of the following options. That you have expertise in fair housing, that you have a good understanding of fair housing, that you have an average understanding of fair housing, or that you have a limited or no understanding of fair housing. We'll give you a few moments to answer. We'll show the results, and hopefully that will gauge us in the slides ahead. Just a few more seconds. We still see some answers coming in. Yeah. All right, and we'll show the results. We'll show the results right now. All right, that's excellent. It looks like we have actually fairly diverse participants, which is exactly what we'd like. So we'll carry on with the presentation and hope you enjoy. Remember that at the end there will be an opportunity to ask questions of both Akita and myself. Just quickly, this webinar is funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. HUD's mission is to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and quality, affordable homes for all. In relation to fair housing, HUD works to build inclusive and sustainable communities free from discrimination. The Office of Human Rights, that's us, or OHR, works closely with HUD to investigate complaints of discrimination and on many other fair housing issues. So we're going to talk about the Office of Human Rights, where Akita and I are from first. Our mission is really to eradicate discrimination, increase equal opportunity, and protect human rights through enforcement of district and federal non-discrimination laws. While OHR does proactive advocacy work to prevent discrimination before it happens, really the primary function of this district government agency is to investigate complaints of discrimination that are filed with the office. These complaints can come in the areas of housing, employment, public accommodations, which can mean anything from restaurants or stores or buses, and also educational institutions. For housing complaints, which is of course the focus of our talk here today, OHR relies primarily on two laws. One is the DC Human Rights Act of 1977, which is one of the most progressive non-discrimination laws in the nation, if not the most progressive. And also the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968, which I mentioned earlier was signed into law today, partially because of Martin Luther King's tragic death. So really quickly, almost anyone can file a discrimination complaint with the Office of Human Rights, from individuals to organizations. It can include group homes, advocacy and fair housing groups, as well as real estate agents. A complaint can be filed as long as the person suffered an actual or threatened injury of discrimination. The respondent, or in most cases for housing, the housing provider, does business in D.C. The complaint can be filed as long as the subject matter is covered by the Fair Housing Act or the D.C. Human Rights Act. And the complaint needs to be filed within 1 year from the date of the last incident of discrimination. A benefit of filing through OHR is that the person or organization alleging discrimination is provided a cost-free complaint process that does not require a lawyer, allowing individuals from diverse socioeconomic statuses to be provided an opportunity for their claims to be heard. This is something we're really proud of at the Office of Human Rights, mostly because a lot of people that are discriminated against cannot afford a lawyer. We're really proud that we can offer these people potential justice despite them not being able to afford something such as that. So to file a complaint, individuals can fill out a simple complaint form online or by visiting the OHR office at the Judiciary Square Metro stop here in D.C. That's on the red line. After filing the form, they may be brought into the office for an intake interview where an investigator will attempt to find out more details about the alleged discriminatory housing incident. After the intake interview, OHR decides whether it has jurisdiction over the complaint, and if so, will formally accept it as an official OHR case and cross-file it with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development if it encompasses protection under federal law. Once a case is accepted, the office will initiate an investigation and schedule mediation between the complainant and the respondent, who's the person who allegedly discriminated. OHR is actually really unique in that the mediation is mandatory for both the complainant and the respondent. Both parties must sit down with an OHR mediator and attempt to resolve the issue with an agreement that can include anything from obtaining the desired housing, monetary damages, required staff trainings, or other solutions that are brought up during the mediation. If a mediation settlement is agreed to, the investigation stops and the case is closed. However, if mediation fails, OHR will continue to investigate the case until it is complete. The investigation may include interviewing the complainant, respondent, and witnesses, a review of documentation and policies, or other methods. Once the investigation is complete, the investigative report is sent to OHR's General Counsel for review and legal analysis of the investigative findings and forwards it to the Director for a final determination. The Director of OHR, Gustavo Velasquez, then reviews the determination and decides whether to render a decision of no probable cause or probable cause. If probable cause is found, the parties will meet for conciliation to try once more to reach a mutual agreement. But if no agreement is made, the case is sent to the D.C. Commission on Human Rights. There, one of 3 administrative judges will review the evidence and make a legal determination about whether discrimination occurred. Explicit damages will be recommended if discrimination is found. A panel of citizen commissioners appointed by the mayor then review the judge's finding and either agree with the finding and damages or overturn the finding or demand different damages. And really, it's the commissioners that make that final determination.